challenges, and there are many different reasons why they could occur. As we all know, race is a significant aspect of people's lives. Not only is it a part of who they are, but it also shapes how others see them. Race and racial discrimination can cause many people to suffer from mental health issues, like anxiety or depression. Angela Neal Barnett says, in workplaces, college and professional school settings around the country, Black women also often find themselves the only one or the first one. In these situations, they have been taught that they have to be twice as good to go half as far, that they are representing the race, and that they are being watched more closely than their white counterparts. Black women everywhere are being judged just because of their skin tone. This quote also shows how much our society today puts labels on people. We shape people into how they are supposed to act or how they're supposed to be around others. We create systems so that a Black person has to work twice as hard as a white person in order to only get halfway there. Angela Neal Barnett continues, the rate of sexual assault among Black women is 3.5 times higher than that of any other group in the country. Black women are also less likely to report their assault. Many suffer in silence for years, never sharing with anyone what has happened to them. Thus, the trauma remains unnamed, unknown, and untreated, and the symptoms worsen. Black women are getting sexually assaulted more than any other group in the country. I, for one, cannot walk around knowing this information and ignore it. And I, for one, cannot walk around seeing all these Black little kids in the audience and know that they have a target on their back that is 3.5 times larger than anyone else's. It sends chills down my spine to know that so many of them have to walk around feeling scared or anxious about what could possibly happen. I can't help but think that they wake up every day with a smile on their face, still not knowing what the future might hold. Police brutality, especially when it is combined with racism, can cause even more stress for people who are affected by it. According to the Guardian's research project called The Counted, more than 920 people had been killed by the police in 2015. And according to Mapping Police Violence, Black people are 3 times more likely to be killed by police than whites. In 2015, 920 human beings were killed by the police. 2015 was only 5 years ago. If the same amount of people were killed each year, that means there would have been 4,600 deaths caused by the police since then. And remember, Black people are 3 times more likely to be killed by law officers. These killings don't only affect the victims' families, but they can affect the entire Black community. According to US Today, Boston University School of Health and University of Pennsylvania released a study that found a high rate of unarmed African Americans being killed at the hands of police has caused more incidents of depression, stress, and other mental health issues among Blacks. When people start to find out that others of the same race are being killed because of their race, it can cause them to ask, could I be next? And there are people walking around with the feeling of not knowing whether or not today could be the day. Wondering whether today could be the day that I die can cause major stress and anxiety. Everything I just talked about has one thing in common: racism. I identify as a Black young adult. And as I grew up, I started to realize that I might be treated different than others because of my skin tone. There was one day when I went to a Duane Reade with one of my friends. I was wearing a camouflage hoodie and Adidas sweatpants. As we walked into the store, I still had my hood on. I had my phone and EpiPen in my pockets. We were looking for a candy that we both really liked, but we weren't sure where it was, so we split up to search different aisles. An employee came up to me and asked if I needed help, in which I replied with, "No thank you, I'm alright." I went back to looking for the candy, and I noticed that the employee was standing there, watching me. I didn't think much of it, and I went to another aisle. I bent down to look for the candy on the bottom shelf and saw the worker watching me like she was before. I started to get a feeling that I knew why she was there. I got really scared and made sure that I kept my hands out of my pockets. I eventually found the candy, so my friend and I went to the front desk to buy it. As we left, I asked my friend if the worker was following him too, and he replied no, they weren't. And I understood the reason why she was following me. It was because of my race. It was because my skin tone was different than hers. It was because in her eyes I was seen as a threat and a thief. Today at this march, we are marching for justice for all. That does not mean justice for a certain race, sexuality, or gender. It means justice for all races, all sexualities, and all genders. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope." I am disappointed that I had to tell that story of my experience in that store. We are here today marching for justice and equity. By marching today, we are giving one another hope. We are giving the youth of today hope. We are giving society hope. Thank you.